Have you ever had one of those mornings where you wake up, grab your phone from the nightstand, and before your feet have even touched the floor, you just feel completely and utterly overwhelmed?
Oh, definitely. Like you're already behind before you even start.
Right. You haven't even started your day, but you are fundamentally exhausted
Yeah.
by, just the sheer volume of noise in the world.
Yeah, the endless barrage of notifications.
Exactly. The notifications, the intense pressure to succeed, the feeling that absolutely everyone is fighting tooth and nail over things that honestly might not even matter. It's a very specific modern kind of burnout.
It really is.
It actually feels like you're breathing in something heavy and toxic.
Yeah, it feels thick. I mean, no matter how much you try to put the phone away or temporarily disconnect, you're still inhaling uh, this omnipresent atmosphere of anxiety and competition and outrage.
But it's always there in the background.
It goes way beyond just having a busy schedule. It's a profound cultural exhaustion.
We usually just slap the label stress on that feeling, right? We treat it as a routine side effect of modern life. And we tell ourselves we just need to, I don't know, book a weekend getaway or download a meditation app to fix it.
But just a quick fix.
But what if it's not just stress? What if the air we're breathing is a literal pollution of human nature?
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a fascinating 2018 philosophical essay by Su Feng.
Yeah, it's titled Out of the Smog of Human Nature.
Right, and it was translated by Kinyu and edited by Peter. So the mission today is to completely unpack Su Feng's striking central metaphor that humanity is currently choking on a psychological smog.
A psychological smog, exactly.
And we really want to explore the sweeping roadmap this essay offers for finding actual clarity when you feel, trapped in the chaos of information overload.
Well, the stakes here are incredibly high because, Su Feng isn't just diagnosing the world and telling us that things are bad. I mean, we already know that.
Right, we live that every day. Exactly. What makes this perspective so compelling is that it forces you to look at the underlying mechanics of your own burnout. It digs deep into the why.
The root cause.
Right, like why do our minds become so polluted in the first place? And how does that internal pollution project outward to create the chaotic world we live in?
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to figure out how to escape the smog, we first have to understand how Feng actually defines it.
Yeah, the essay draws a very sharp contrast between physical pollution and mental pollution.
Right, because we all know what physical smog is. The sky is dim, the sun is weak, the mountains look gloomy, and the essay says the rivers are practically crying.
It's incredibly poetic.
It is. It's a state where everything in nature becomes desolate and melancholy, and if you can't escape it, your physical body gets sick.
But as destructive as that physical pollution is, Feng argues that the deepest smog is actually the smog of human nature.
Not carbon emissions.
Right. This isn't about factory exhaust. It is a heavy psychological atmosphere. Under this specific kind of smog, psychology becomes deviant.
Deviant how?
Well, truth gets twisted. Good and evil are disguised so heavily that people are left entirely directionless. You end up with a society where falsehoods and ugliness run rampant, while truth and beauty are shackled and suppressed.
Wow. And the origin of this psychological pollution is where the philosophy gets intensely personal. I mean, the baseline assumption here is that human nature is inherently pure.
Yes, fundamentally pure.
It's bright, it's spotless, and Su Feng uses this beautiful ancient metaphor. Pure human nature is like a mirror.
Yeah, the mind as a pristine mirror is a concept that echoes through countless philosophical traditions. In its natural state, the mirror doesn't judge, it doesn't panic, it simply reflects reality with perfect, calm clarity.
So think about your pure human nature like a brand new computer straight out of the box.
Okay, I like this.
You turn it on and it runs flawlessly. It's lightning fast, the screen is crisp, and it does exactly what it needs to do without any lag. But then you actually have to start living life. Su Feng points out that we all have baseline operating requirements.
Right, we have to eat. We need shelter from the elements.
Exactly. We age and we inevitably get sick.
Those are the non-negotiable physical realities of existing as a biological creature. That is the baseline operating system.
But then we start downloading all these heavy ego-driven background apps. We don't just want food. We want to guarantee our safety forever.
We want to be deeply respected by our peers.
Yes. We feel this urge to show off our talents. We want to glorify our ancestors and leave behind a massive legacy. We start relentlessly chasing money, power, status, fame, and superficial beauty.
And that's a lot of apps running at once.
It's too many. Suddenly, that pristine, brand-new computer is bogged down with psychological malware and a million notifications. The processor gets so hot from running all these invisible, ego-driven programs that the whole system throttles and eventually crashes.
That mental throttling is the smog.
Exactly. Sufeng writes that because of all these desires, people will not be at peace and they must struggle.
And the friction of that constant struggle is what generates the pollution. When you are desperately pursuing legacy or fame, Shuifeng describes it as the mirror is corrupt by dust.
Crept by dust. That's a great image.
It is. That dust is the sediment of our anxiety, our resentment, our anger, our fear, and our constant contention with other people. All of those emotional sediments float up into the collective atmosphere and literally form the smog of human nature.
But I have to ask, is the author arguing here that basic human ambition is inherently toxic? Because wanting to provide for your family or wanting to be good at your job, that feels natural. Is it the ambition itself that is bad, or is it the relentless, excessive pursuit of these things that kicks up all the dust?
It is entirely about the attachment to the outcome and how survival subtly morphs into an obsession with the ego.
So is the ego.
Exactly. Shuifeng completely acknowledges our basic needs, eating, clothing, shelter, as natural and necessary. The toxicity begins the moment you transition from needing a meal to survive to needing to be recognized as the absolute most important and wealthy person at the dinner table. Ah, I see.
The dust isn't the food on your plate. The dust is the profound anxiety you feel about your social status. It's the paranoia of losing your power. It's the blistering anger you feel when someone else gets the promotion or the spotlight.
Wow, yeah.
That relentless, ego-driven striving is the engine pumping smog into the air, clouding your own mirror and the mirrors of everyone around you.
And when you have billions of people operating with that kind of intense, throttled mental state, you don't just get a few stressed individuals. You get a completely chaotic, involuntary reality.
You're all trapped in it together.
Right. Because our mirrors are caked in this dust, we end up essentially breathing in our own psychological exhaust.
And the symptoms of existing in this environment are incredibly severe. Schoffen describes a reality where people are no longer walking on a clear path. They are trapped inside a tornado, completely unable to distinguish basic directions.
The imagery used for the symptom is honestly uncomfortably relatable. People are submerged in a sea of countless information, rushing around like ants on a hot pan.
Ants on a hot pan. I mean, if you want a perfect description of what it feels like to open a social media feed during a major news event, ants on a hot pan is exactly it.
What's fascinating here is how accurately a text from 2018 captures the exact psychological texture of the modern doom-scrolling era.
It really is.
This is an environment of extreme information density but zero actual wisdom. Everyone is reacting instantly, fueled by that underlying dust of anxiety and contention. It creates severe psychological whiplash.
Whiplash is the right word because the mood swings Whiffing identifies in the smog are incredibly extreme. People are struggling in this haggard state of mind where one moment they get a taste of validation, maybe a post goes viral, or they get a bonus at work, and they are ecstatic.
Right, they're top of the world.
They feel like they are the absolute masters of life, but then the very next moment, the algorithm shifts, where someone criticizes them, and they are plunging into a bottomless abyss of grievance, complaining, and bitter resentment.
Because when your entire internal state is dictated by external validation, you are entirely at the mercy of the tornado. You have no center of gravity.
You're just spinning.
Right. And when millions of people are living like this simultaneously, it actively breaks the logic of society.
Sweffing points out that this creates a deeply ironic, inverted reality. There's this great phrase used in this Smog, you reap beans from melon seeds.
Reap beans from melon seeds.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way to say that cause and effect are totally broken. You try to do a genuinely good deed, and somehow you get punished or canceled for it. You work incredibly hard with integrity, and you lose everything.
It makes no sense.
Exactly. In this environment, the people who are free and unrestrained aren't the heroes. They're described as spirits and monsters. Meanwhile, the people who are severely attacked and dragged through the mud are actually the Buddhas, the ones trying to hold on to truth.
It is a complete distortion of justice. The smog makes the monsters look like saints and the saints look like monsters. And this inversion leads to what might be the single most dangerous psychological symptom. Wei Feng identifies the delusion of superiority. As the smog becomes more severe, people develop this overwhelming feeling that everyone is sleeping, but I am awake.
Oh man, we see this constantly.
Every day.
Every time you log online, there is an endless parade of people who are absolutely convinced they are the only ones who truly understand the economy or the political landscape or the hidden truth of a situation. They view everyone else as mindless sheep. But how does that actually work? Why does the mind do that?
It is a profound defense mechanism. When your brain is overwhelmed by chaotic information and you feel like an ant on a hot pan, you feel powerless.
You have no control.
Right. To regain a sense of control, the ego elevates itself. It constructs a narrative where you are the sole enlightened observer surrounded by fools. It feels like clarity, but it is actually the ultimate trap.
Wow.
Shuiveng warns that this feeling of being the only awake person is just another thicker layer of dust on the mirror. It is pure intellectual arrogance fueled by the smog itself.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let me push back a bit. If the smog is actively tricking people into thinking they are awake when they're actually asleep, how on earth are you supposed to know if you are seeing things clearly or if you are just hallucinating in the smog with everyone else?
That's the core question, isn't it? You know by what happens when the pressure is applied. Zhofeng notes that eventually, inevitably, a wave hits, a real crisis occurs.
Okay.
And when that wave comes, these supposedly awake people realize they have been drawn deep into the mud. They become a clever person who may become the victim of his own ingenuity.
Basically outsmarting themselves.
Exactly. They end up trapped or totally abandoned by the times because their awakeness was just a performance. Genuine clarity doesn't feel like a frantic superiority over other people. It feels like quiet stillness.
Which begs the biggest question of this deep dive. If we were all stumbling around blindly in this disorienting, ego-driven tornado, how do we actually survive it? If we can't trust our own sense of being awake, what is the actual antidote?
The solution Shuifeng provides is radically counterintuitive to how modern society teaches us to solve problems. The actionable advice is simply this: do not fight the tornado.
Just don't fight it.
Don't fight it.
The instruction is to light up the sacred lamp that is in your heart. Shuifeng says you have to hold the absolute bottom line of your human nature. Do not go with the wave of the times.
That's huge.
It is. Do not trust instigating information designed to make you angry. And perhaps most importantly, guard your own field and do not try to fish in troubled waters.
Fishing in troubled waters is such a potent metaphor for modern opportunism. When society is turned upside down, there is always a massive temptation to capitalize on the chaos.
Oh, for sure.
To exploit the confusion for personal gain, whether that is financial profit or just gaining social media clout by dunking on people during a controversy. Shuifeng is saying you must completely refuse to play that game.
It reminds me of the mechanics of being caught in a literal riptide in the ocean.
Awesome.
Well, if you are swimming and suddenly a riptide pulls you out away from the shore, your immediate biological instinct is to panic. You try to fix the situation by swimming as hard as you can directly against the current, fighting the water to get back to the beach.
Which is the worst thing you can do.
Exactly. If you do that, you burn all your oxygen, you exhaust your muscles, and you drown. You cannot outmuscle the ocean. The only way to survive a riptide is to float or swim parallel to the shore and patiently wait until the current naturally releases its grip on you.
That is the exact psychological dynamic Shuifeng is describing. If you try to fix the chaos of the world by fighting the smog on its own terms, by engaging in the endless comment section arguments, by trying to outmaneuver the monsters, by obsessing over every piece of instigating news, you will just drown in the pollution.
You're just swimming against the riptide.
Yes. To soothe the pure heart that is suffering under this immense pressure, Shuifeng says you must actively reduce your desires and restrain your impulses.
And to help do this, the essay advises communicating with spiritual figures, specifically mentioning Jesus, Shakyamuni, who is the Buddha, and Lao Tzu.
What Shuifeng is doing here is creating a brilliant synthesis of global philosophies, pulling from Christian, Buddhist, and Taoist thought to formulate a unified strategy of passive resistance against the ego.
They all kind of say the same thing in that regard.
They do. What do Jesus, Buddha, and Lao Tzu have in common? In their respective traditions, they all radically rejected worldly ambition. They didn't try to violently overthrow the smog of their eras. They found immense, unshakable power in radical detachment. They cleared their own internal skies.
But, employing that kind of radical detachment requires a painful amount of patience. When you are watching the world act like ants on a hot pan, doing nothing feels wrong.
It feels like giving up.
Right. Yet Shuifeng explicitly says, do not look for shortcuts, do not worry. Because the more anxious you are to fix things, the more disorderly your own mind becomes. You have to let your impetuous mind calm down and just watch the development and evolution of the situation.
You have to step entirely out of the arena. You become a quiet observer. Zhuofeng promises that if you can hold your ground and just float, the sandstorm will eventually pass.
The dust will settle.
Exactly. The laws of nature dictate that the smog will clear, the purity of the earth will be restored, and all the chaotic, muddy water will eventually sink down into the abyss.
There's this striking definitive line in the essay. What belongs to the greatest creator will return to the greatest creator, and what belongs to Caesar will return to Caesar.
It is a profound call to outsource your anxiety. It requires absolute trust in the ultimate balancing of the scales. You do not have to personally enforce cosmic justice in the middle of a tornado.
The universe has got it.
The universe is entirely capable of sorting it out without your panicked intervention.
And that concept is exactly why we can afford to just float in the riptide.
Yeah.
Choosing to not fight back requires an immense amount of faith that the water will eventually let you go. And that is the cosmological safety net Shuifeng introduces next. It's a specific view of how the universe keeps score.
Right, because passive resistance isn't just a trick to lower your blood pressure. Zhuofeng backs this up with a fundamental cosmological argument, framing karma as the iron law of the universe.
Calling it an iron law frames it as inescapable physics.
Yeah.
It is not mystical magic, it is raw cause and effect. Shuifeng states plainly, what you give and what you receive is always equal.
You cannot cheat the math.
No, you can't hide your faults. The essay uses this deeply haunting phrase, warning those who do not want their true nature exposed in the light to ensure that nothing amiss lurks in their darkest closets.
Because no matter how tightly you lock the door, the closet eventually opens. Karma, in this context, means that focusing on immediate, ruthless wins is mathematically pointless.
It's short-term thinking.
Completely. Your momentary elation today cannot magically cancel out tomorrow's wretched circumstances if you earned that win through cruelty. If you cheat and claw your way to the top of the corporate ladder, stepping on everyone to get there, Shuifeng suggests you are just guaranteeing that you will be shackled and slaughtered in the next phase of existence. The scales always eventually return to zero.
To really drive the absurdity of our ego-driven panic home, Shuifeng uses some incredibly poetic metaphors about the sheer futility of human struggles. The essay asks, when competing in the time of a flint light, what is a long time?
A flint light.
Yeah, think about the momentary microscopic spark that flashes when you strike two rocks together in the dark. In the timeline of the universe, that tiny spark is our entire human lifespan.
This is nothing.
It's over in a flash. And then Shuifeng asks, when contending for the space as big as snails' horns, what is success?
Fighting a war over the horns of a snail. Imagine two microscopic bacteria locked in a brutal battle to the death over a single speck of dust. From our perspective, it is entirely absurd.
We wouldn't even notice it.
Right. Shuofeng is using that scale to make all of our massive, earth-shattering political arguments and corporate turf wars seem completely microscopic.
So what does this all mean? How does zooming out to the flint light of the universe actually help you when you are, say, stuck in traffic on a Tuesday morning commute, or when your boss is screaming at you over a meaningless spreadsheet? It's beautiful poetry. But how does the listener use the snail's horns concept in the real world?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you use it to hack your own psychology. The cosmic zoom out is a highly practical tool. Let's trace it back to the origin of the smog, anxiety over status, fear of losing money, anger at being insulted.
Ego stuff.
Exactly. For those emotional sediments to exist, you must deeply believe that your current situation is the most vital, high-stakes event in the universe. By intentionally framing your daily battles, like the traffic jam or the angry boss, as just two microbes fighting on a snail's horn, you completely disarm your ego.
You essentially deflate the perceived importance of the game you were playing.
Precisely. You cannot maintain a state of blinding panic over a missed deadline or a rude comment on social media if you truly, fundamentally internalize that the entire conflict is just a brief spark in the dark. It instantly removes the emotional fuel that generates the smog.
Shuofeng reinforces this by pointing to the absolute indifference of history. The essay paints these vivid images of impermanence. It describes how grand palaces, places that were once filled with singing, dancing, and vital importance, inevitably become broken walls where foxes sleep and deserted platforms where rabbits walk.
I love that imagery.
Right. Old battlefields where thousands of people died fighting desperately for dominance simply become quiet fields overgrown with yellow flowers and cold dew.
It forces you to look at the ruins of human ambition. Shuofeng asks a series of rapid-fire questions regarding those who fought in those ruins. Who won? Who lost? Who was complacent? Who was frustrated?
And the devastating implied answer is it absolutely does not matter. The foxes are sleeping there now.
The empire crumbled. The powerful CEO was entirely forgotten about time. The money they fought for was spent and scattered. The only thing that endured was the quiet purity of the earth itself.
Wow.
Swefeng is asking, why would you pollute your own soul? Why would you cake your pristine mirror in toxic dust for a prize that is going to be swallowed by the weeds anyway?
It is a profoundly humbling reminder. And it brings this entire deep dive directly back to you, navigating your own life. We started this conversation talking about how visceral and heavy it feels to wake up drowning in information, feeling like an ant on a hot pan.
Yeah, that morning dread.
And when the world feels that chaotic, it is incredibly easy to surrender to the smog and just assume that reality is permanently broken.
But the core empowering message of Shuofeng's essay is that the world's chaos does not dictate your internal reality. You retain ultimate agency. You have the sovereign power to wipe the dust off your own mirror.
You do not have to ride the wave of the times. You don't have to possess a furious opinion on every single outrage cycle that rolls through your feed. You can choose to guard your own field. You can cultivate what Shuofeng calls a luminous heart.
A luminous heart.
Because, as the essay beautifully states, if your heart is luminous, there is a blue sky even in a dark room.
You can effectively create your own perfect weather system, operating entirely independent of the toxic smog outside.
And that realization leads us to Shuofeng's ultimate paradigm-shifting instruction at the very end of the essay. After spending all this time diagnosing the pain of the present, the author delivers a striking pivot. Don't live in the present, but live in the future.
It is a massive shift in perspective. After teaching you how to survive the present, Shuofeng tells you to anchor your entire being somewhere else.
Somewhere clear. The essay promises that a suffocatingly beautiful era is rapidly approaching. Shuofeng envisions a future where the world operates as one family, where the worthies are actually able to utilize their talents, and where everywhere you look is poetic, picturesque, and full of genuine happy laughter.
And the author believes this era is actively walking toward civilized people right now.
Right.
By taking your hopes and anchoring them firmly in that beautiful future, you render the smog of the present entirely powerless over you. You are no longer fighting the darkness. You're just sitting quietly, patiently waiting for the dawn you know is coming.
It is a vision of ultimate radical hope.
Okay.
But as we wrap up today's deep dive, this philosophy does leave us with a fascinating, lingering question for you to ponder as you go about your day.
What's that?
Well, if we take Shuofeng's advice to radically detach from the chaos of today, to completely stop fighting the current, to float and to live our lives entirely for this beautifully clear future, do we risk ignoring the very real responsibilities we have in the present?
That's a fair point.
Is there a danger that by refusing to engage with the smog, we might miss the hidden lessons or the vital duties to our fellow human beings? That the messy, painful reality of the present is asking us to face right now?
That is the eternal tension between spiritual detachment and worldly obligation. How do you keep your mirror spotless without completely abandoning the muddy world? Finding that exact balance is the true work of a lifetime.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow morning when you wake up and reach for your phone and the screen lights up with a dozen new global emergencies and urgent demands, the noise will still be there. The tornado will still be spinning.
It won't disappear overnight.
No, it won't. But maybe tomorrow, before you let that heavy polluted air fill your lungs, you can pause. You can look at the dust trying to settle on your mirror, remember the snail horns, and simply choose not to breathe it in.